I didn't see the globe of the world or the diversity of America reflected in the leadership of the Trump organization. That to me is bad business.
The scary thing is we actually don't know what he believes beyond opportunity and beyond the name of the Trump family.
As a citizen, patriot, and leader, it is my duty to use my small platform to speak the truth, arouse our collective conscience, and channel the best version of America that I know is within us all.
I just felt that this was something that we had to do, and frankly, some of our colleagues feel exactly the same way, but they can't speak out because of fear of reprisals, because of their jobs. We are entrepreneurs, we run businesses that are strong enough to withstand the attacks that you've already seen, but they don't, and they have families to feed, and so we're here also speaking for them as well.
Well, thank you. Well, we have a great story here for you today. Wow. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Dr. Randal Pinkett, Season 4, and he was the winner of Season 4, as you know.
Good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Good morning.
On the back of every dollar bill are the words, "In God we trust." On this day, I'm trusting God to guide the meditations of my heart and the words from my mouth. Before I begin my opening remarks, I would like to first acknowledge several people who've been instrumental in pulling this event together. I want to thank my business partners and colleagues at BCT Partners, including Lawrence Hibbert, Kenya Kreml, Dr. Jeffrey Robinson, Dallas Grundy, Dr. Christopher Jones, Teresa Watkins, and David Poindexter for their support of this event. I would like to thank Renee Warren and Cheryl Duncan and the entire team from Ariel Warren for an outstanding job in organizing this press conference and moving very quickly to do so. I would also like to thank my brave and fellow apprentices and friends, Kwame Jackson and Tara Dowdell, who stand beside me, Marshawn Evans and James Sun, who stand with us via Skype, and Kevin Allen, who was unable to be here but is with us today in spirit. I should mention that someone who also signed on to this campaign at the last minute is Surya Yalamanchili from Season 6 of The Apprentice. He was not listed in the original release, but has since signed on to support the statement being made today. Last but not least, I would like to thank all of you representing various media outlets for taking the time to be with us this morning. Thank you all. Let me begin by making one thing clear. We stand united as former candidates on The Apprentice, not to denounce Donald Trump, the man, but to denounce Donald Trump, the presidential candidate's message. We respect Donald's success as a businessman, and we genuinely appreciate the opportunity afforded to us by The Apprentice. If it were not for Donald and Mark Burnett, we would have never had the opportunity to compete on The Apprentice and subsequently benefit from the doors it has undeniably opened for all of us. We are eternally grateful to Donald for that opportunity. However, because our allegiance to our country supersedes our relationship with Donald, we see today as an act of patriotism and not disloyalty. We speak today as Americans, not Democrats or Republicans or independents. This is not a partisan statement, and we are not here to endorse a candidate. This is not the first time we've expressed our concerns about Donald's campaign. However, this is the first time we have expressed our concerns about Donald's campaign together. I personally reached out to Kwame, Kevin, Tara, Marshawn, and James to support this effort because there is strength in numbers. We are not seeking the spotlight, but rather we believe it is our responsibility to speak as a collective voice because so much is at stake in this election, not only for America, but also for the world. We believe the American people have a right to be as informed as they can in this election regarding Donald's qualifications as the Republican Party's frontrunner and a leading candidate to become president. And so today we denounce Donald's campaign of sexism, xenophobia, racism, violence, and hate as a unified team. I'm going to now ask my fellow apprentices to come forward and offer prepared remarks. We will deliver those remarks in the order of our seasons. And I will come back to offer my remarks in that same context. So first to come forward will be Kwame Jackson from Season 1 of The Apprentice.
Good morning, America. First, let me thank Randal Pinkett, Dr. Pinkett, for his leadership and his bravery. It's a bold and a big thing to bring us together collectively and share this message, and I salute you. America is at a tipping point in its demographic identity, social contract, and fear of economic dislocation. Into that void and vacuum of uncertainty and fear has stepped Mr. Trump, stoking the flames of our worst demons to the chagrin of our better angels and cherished ideals for a more perfect union. As a citizen, patriot, and leader, it is my duty to use my small platform to speak the truth, arouse our collective conscience, and channel the best version of America that I know is within us all, as one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This is no time to run or be silent. It is my turn to stand tall in the breach and speak loudly at the precipice of fascism. As President Clinton so truthfully said, there is nothing wrong with America that can't be fixed by what's right with America. I believe that in my soul. So let us choose Kennedy over Kardashianism each and every time as a leading nation. Muhammad Ali over McCarthyism. That is why I defiantly stand up, why I defiantly speak out, and why I defiantly stand before you today. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy." This is one of those times. Trump has created a toxic ecosystem in our political discourse. Trump has appealed to the lowest common denominator of fear, racism, and divisiveness in our populace. And this mix is never the path to American progress. I.e. McCarthyism, Jesse Helms, or Governor Wallace standing in the schoolhouse door. Trump does not have the temperament to deal with the sensitivities and diplomacy required on the world stage with volatile regimes in Iran, North Korea, and the threat of ISIS. You don't get into a fist-for-fist boxing match in 2016 global politics. Trump's proposals are rooted in fantasy, hyperbole, and bombast, making Mexico pay for its own wall, getting China to do all our bidding based on threats, renegotiating all treaties with Iran, all because he said so? Really? And he's simply a smarter negotiator who went to Wharton? Trump has corrupted the Republican Party to its own peril and taken key airtime from substantive candidates like John Kasich, while forcing other candidates to join him in the race to the bottom by banning Muslims from entry to America and building a wall instead of bridges. Either you are draining the swamp in America or you are filling the swamp in America. That swamp being intolerance and hate. And I believe that Trump is filling it. Trump is not the candidate for America. Words matter. And you incite violence when you cajole, tacitly and implicitly encourage the next Dylan Roof or the next Timothy McVeigh. They are listening. In some tragic cases, they are acting. I remember a different Mr. Trump over 10 years ago when I first went on the season 1 of Apprentice. I almost say that it's been a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde transformation. If Mr. Trump in his current manifestation as a politician came about 10 years ago, I would not have gone on season 1 of The Apprentice. But we all see how people change and evolve, sometimes for the worse. Trump does not represent the future of a changing, more pluralistic and diverse America, a browning of America. He represents a longing for the past to make America great again by hitting the rewind button on our progressive and inclusive history. His statements about Bernie Sanders' weakness regarding Black Lives Matter protesters and his Willie Horton-style ad showing Mexican criminals run amok to stoke fear, and lastly, his belittling comments towards women and their looks, and the list goes on. Trump is playing the old Dixiecrat Southern strategy of yesteryear by playing to small tent politics, assuming you can win an election with an all-white male electorate that is shrinking, angry, and tricked into voting against their own economic self-interest by a beguiling and shiny billionaire. Let me close by saying this. I hear you, America. I feel you, America. I understand your frustration and fears, but Mr. Trump is not the way forward for us all. Thank you. Oh, excuse me. I would now like to introduce my fellow Apprentice alumni, Tara Dowdell.
Good morning. And thank you for being here. First, I would also like to commend Dr. Randal Pinkett for his leadership and courage. And make no mistake about it, this is a courageous move for him and for us, given that we are all business owners and we all have clients and responsibilities. And we took the time out to be here because we feel it is that important and that it is our obligation. So thank you, Dr. Pinkett. I am here because I am deeply concerned and disturbed by the impact of Donald Trump's divisiveness on our nation. As someone who participated in the show that arguably paved the way for his presidential ascension, I feel it is my responsibility to speak out. There has been so much hate and divisiveness in this election cycle that he has particularly fomented. And given the real-world implications of his words, I think we are at a point where we would be irresponsible not to condemn them. We've seen violence at a multitude of his rallies. We've seen his supporters cheer and encourage violence. We've seen him refuse to condemn the violence. And I ask, is this the America we want to be? Donald Trump is validating people's hate and his bigotry in a way that I truly believe has the potential to tear this country apart. Someone of his stature, someone who has been regarded over the decades as a consequential businessman, validating this kind of behavior is so dangerous. And he talks about how he wants to make America great again. Well, I think America's pretty darn great as it is. But you don't make America great by rejecting the very promise of America. America has always been a place where we welcomed immigrants, where we welcome people coming here seeking a better life or escaping extreme violence and totalitarianism. That is what has made America great. You don't make America great by dividing people. You don't make America great by creating an environment where people think it's acceptable to physically harm someone exercising their constitutional rights. And so I am passionate, and you feel that passion because I am truly concerned about what will happen if Donald Trump becomes the Republican presidential nominee. And I am deeply afraid of what could happen if he becomes president of the United States of America. So I am here as a citizen, as a voter, as a taxpayer, as someone who loves my country, as someone who will stand up for my country to say, I hope someone listening, well, at least if you're thinking about supporting Donald Trump, at least consider our words. I hope we gave you some food for thought today, that we're giving you some food for thought today. This is too important. It is too important. Thank you.
Oh, and thank you everyone again for being a part of this day. Thank you to Dr. Randal Pinkett and everyone who's been instrumental in putting this together today. My name is Marshawn Evans Daniels. I am a reinvention strategist, a woman of color, a woman of faith, and also a business owner who employs a lot of people who also have the opportunity to encourage and speak to and help develop the next generation of young entrepreneurs in this country. And it is those titles that really prompted me to think about today, but also how I came to be a part of an event like today. 11 years ago, I was on season 4 of The Apprentice. Coming fresh out of Georgetown Law School, wanting to prove myself in the arena with the best of the best of the best. And I was inspired. I was inspired by the idea of competition and the idea of brilliance being brought together. And also the idea of being mentored and being led by and learning from somebody who is infectiously inspirational when it comes to personality, when it comes to confidence, And that's what drew me to The Apprentice. I remember actually going through the audition process. And there were two quotes that really stood out to me that really made me want to participate in this gladiator type of an experience. One is a quote by Trump, and it says, if you are going to be thinking, you might as well think big. And then the second, I actually remember when I had the opportunity to personally interview with Donald Trump, and even this is a quote that I brought up a few times while being a contestant on the show in the boardroom. And it was that if everyone is thinking alike, then someone isn't thinking. And I remember when we were competing in this really interesting process called The Apprentice, showing up in the boardroom, putting it all out there, and then choosing to be judged. Whenever we lost, it was because somebody wasn't thinking. It was because we had groupthink. It was because everybody decided that one person's idea was the only idea that needed to be expressed, and instead of standing out to speak up against that idea, when everyone would come around it and not challenge it. When we wouldn't challenge it, that's when we lost. And I believe that that really speaks to where we are today. You see, I joined that show as a young lawyer, again, fresh out of Georgetown Law, looking to start her career, inspired, and feeling like this was an environment that represented the American dream. And I believe that big thinking is truly what does make us great, but big thinking is the ability to think beyond your own self-interest. It's the ability to think beyond what's best for you, and what's easy to do. You know, I think that leadership takes courage, and one of the reasons why I said that, the Donald Trump that I see today, which is different than the Donald Trump that inspired me to step into that infamous boardroom. The thing that worries me and that scares me is I see lazy leadership. I see someone who thinks with their own self-interest and not the interest of me, not the interest of other women like me, other women of color, other women of faith, other entrepreneurs, other people of different races, religions, and people who are just different. I don't see someone who thinks about our history, who thinks about the dirty, ugly history that we have in this country when it comes to racism. You know, Donald Trump grew up in an era very similar to my parents, who had to use a bathroom. He was allowed to use a bathroom that said whites only. My parents were only allowed to use one that said blacks only. And I think that we forget that it is small thinking that took us there. It is big thinking that elevated us from there. And there's a very real danger that we are facing right now, which is why I've chosen this time right now to come hand in hand with my fellow apprentice, is that the idea that we can't go back is naive. We can go backwards. In fact, we are going backwards. The fact that racism and racial tension is at an all-time high, and we have somebody who is dominating the media who doesn't speak out against the things that make America great. I intentionally say that that's lazy, and I say that that is anti-American. Because big thinkers think beyond self-interest, and they think for the greater good. And it's dangerous. It's very dangerous when the loudest voice trumpet the smallest thinking. When the loudest voices trumpet the smallest thinking. Here's what's happening, and here's what happened. There's this thing that I teach to my clients and teaching them to be speakers and authors and thought leaders and TV personalities at my company. One of the things that we talk about is being a good storyteller. And that's one of the things I will say about Donald Trump is he's always been a successful storyteller. But he's a very simple storyteller. It's I'm the good guy, they're the bad guys. He's the good guy, and we all want to be with the hero. But what happens when you have a very simple message is that monkey brain turns on. And monkey brain is simply the same thing that happens when you see Jaws, and Jaws comes on the screen, and you think that Jaws is going to come through the screen, and your heart starts beating fast, and you get caught up in that story. And what's happening is that America is caught up in a story, and our monkey brain is turned on full effect, where we're just looking and we're entertained because we live in a reality TV made culture. And Donald Trump is the baby that small thinking produces. It is the lead character that monkey brain thinking and small thinking and cowardice thinking and lazy thinking and silent people produce this type of candidate. And it is a sad day for me, because to be someone who was so inspired, and for that inspiration to turn to horror and now discussed. The smallest of small thinking is refusal to stand up for others and to think with self-interest, to strip people of their civil rights. And so I say that I am committed to speaking what I'm seeking until I see what I've said. And I invite America to do the same thing. We must speak what we see until we see what we said. And in order to fix what is wrong with America, we do have to stand on what's right with America. That is our values, that is love, that is inclusion, that is faith, and that is country. And so I speak what I speak until I see what I've said, and I invite you as Americans to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Marshawn. Unfortunately, we are not able to get James' son to join us via Skype, but please do know that James is here in solidarity and in spirit, standing with us on this day, and stands behind the statements that we've made and that we've released. Let me reiterate a few things I said before and offer some final remarks, and then we'll open the floor for questions. Again, we see today as an act of patriotism, not disloyalty. We speak today as Americans, not Democrats or Republicans or independents. This is not a partisan statement, and we are not here to endorse a candidate. And this is not the first time that we have spoken individually. This is the first time we have spoken together. We are not seeking the spotlight, but rather we believe it is our responsibility to speak as a collective voice, because so much is at stake in this election. And the American people have a right to be as informed as they can in this election regarding Donald's qualifications as the Republican Party's frontrunner and the leading candidate to become president. As alums of The Apprentice, we have had the opportunity to work with Donald in a variety of capacities, including as an employee of the Trump Organization. Our perspective is not born from those few scenes from The Apprentice that actually made it to the screen, but also from the many more intimate interactions we have had with Donald on the set in Trump Tower, at photo shoots, in various conversations outside of the camera's reach, and in the executive offices of the Trump Organization, and most recently, from what we have witnessed over the course of his campaign. It is the totality of these experiences, realized by only a few and a handful of Americans, that gives us our unique perspective and leads us to the conclusion that Donald is not worthy of the highest office of the land. We strongly condemn Donald's campaign of sexism, xenophobia, racism, violence, and hate. From his comments about Megyn Kelly, Carly Fiorina, and other women, to his position on immigrants, and in particular, Mexicans, to his proposed ban on Muslims in America, to his insinuation that women having an abortion should be punished, to his reluctance to immediately denounce an endorsement from David Duke of the Ku Klux Klan, to his advocacy of violence at his campaign rallies that has led to violence. Donald's rhetoric and his behavior are disappointing, are disconcerting, are divisive, and are downright dangerous. And they do not reflect the very best of American values or human dignity. I say the following to Donald directly. I understand the reasons why you have gained political support, Donald. You have given voice to a segment of Americans who are fearful, frustrated, and feel the need for change. It is for such a time as this, Donald, that our country needs a leader who can not only speak to these legitimate sentiments, which you are clearly doing, and you are doing well, but we also need a leader who can unite us as a country, which you are clearly not doing well, and you are falling woefully short. This is what disappoints me the most in you, Donald. This is what disappoints me the most in you, Donald. And we are calling for you to do better. America needs a president who can see what is already great about America and make our country greater. Someone who sees our diversity as an asset and not a liability. Someone who will tear down walls that separate us and not build them. And someone who unequivocally denounces fear and hate, rather than condones them. Donald's proposed policies and his principles, or the apparent lack thereof, make clear not only that he is unqualified to be president of the United States, but also that he's a danger to our country and the world. The presidency is not an office to merely be won. It is an office that must be earned by articulating a vision for all Americans. What makes America great is a unified commitment to diversity, inclusiveness, and the ideals of a more perfect union. Therefore, winning this election isn't all that is at stake. What is at stake is the long-standing social contract between America and its citizens and the founding principles upon which this country was built, principles that we believe will ultimately prevail. We stand united today as citizens of this great country to denounce Donald's vision to make America great again, because we believe his vision overlooks everything that has made America great in the first place. God bless you, and thank you.